Welcome to the Late Break Show Idle Chat. This is a slightly different Idle Chat. We have the brown chairs, we have 3 people, not 2, and we are doing this live in front of an audience in a field because this is the Late Break Show live on tour. So come along while I meet this man here, Jimmy DeVille from Goblin Garage Workshop, a lovely chap who I've actually worked with, and we're going to be asking questions from myself but also from my colleague here, Richard Sniff Petrol Porter. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining me. Obviously, I've only got 2 brown chairs, so I'm going in the deck chair in the middle. And this is different to how we normally do it because we've got a generator running and we're in a field. But apart from that, it's really similar.
The ambiance is high.
Yeah. And we're using microphones because there's an audience. You and I have actually worked together for a few years now. But your main job is that you front a show. You front a show called the Goblin Garage.
Goblin Works Garage.
Goblin Works. I missed the word works.
Works. Really key, that word.
I remember asking you the origins of the name.
Yeah. Do you want me to recount that?
Yeah, recount the name.
So I dabbled with jet engines, and I've got a jet thrust boat. And there's a guy.
Just hang on. You just so casually mentioned that.
Yeah.
I dabble with jet engines. I've got a jet thrust boat.
Yeah. So I'm the only British person not to have died driving a jet thrust boat.
Is that true?
Yeah. We had John Cobb in 1952. He died actually on my birthday, 1952 September 29th, on Loch Ness. And then we had Mr. Campbell, obviously in Bluebird.
Yeah.
And I did a TV show, but I wanted to build a jet thrust boat. I didn't want to set a speed record, I want that to be clear. What I wanted to do is experience what it was like to basically be strapped to a jet engine on water. And then getting into it, I found out that the massive challenge with jet thrust boats is getting on the plane. So the boat lifts out of the water, and then you start to go places quite quickly.
So it wants to go higher, but you want to stay...
Yeah, but see, when a boat's in the water, it sort of sinks in.
Yeah.
And what you need is torque to push it forwards and get it out. And what a jet thrust engine doesn't do is have any torque, because it's pushing you with air.
Oh.
So Campbell took 8 years to get Bluebird on the plane going 400 miles an hour. Cobb took about 3 months. I built the boat and did it in 4 weeks.
Did
Yeah.
you really?
Yeah, so I bought a jet plane. I bought a Jet Provost JP, which has a Viper Tur 1 engine, which has about 3,000 horsepower.
Gosh.
Equivalent. And I bought from Rochester, actually, not far from here. I bought a racing mono ski racing.
Yeah, is it like a P1 powerboat type hull, or is it?
This is mono. I don't know, 7.5 meters, big blue boat. I didn't know anything about boats.
Oh my gosh! And you built one in 4 weeks. And
Yeah, and I basically took the engine out of the JP and I dropped it on the back. And so the starter motor was about here. It was sucking in air about there, and we were lucky enough to take it up to Loch Ness and give it a little 2-seater.
Yeah.
And we did a 21-mile run, and I topped out 100 miles an hour. We then did a 180 pirouette, and I said, that's enough of that.
Really?
Yeah, they are. It's a sketchy thing.
Well, that's a much more interesting intro than I was going to do myself for this. Near death in a jet boat. Brilliant. Let's just pack up and go. What I wanted to do is rewind almost and say that I first got to know about you from when you did a TV series about engines, purely about engines.
Yeah, that was on that show.
Yeah, the fascination of the engine, which I thought was a great idea because some people, a bit like my brother is, their fascination when they grew up was actually more about the engine than the rest of the car. My brother never cared about what the bodywork was, what the interior was like. He just wanted to know what engine, what gearbox, and what's it going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to, for a lot of us, it comes down to 2 things. We're both fans of both of them, I think. It was Tamiya cars. I just was blown away with their mechanics and that. And then Haynes manuals. You know, I got my first Haynes manual was of a Mini.
Was it?
I was going to get a Mini, and I knew that thing. I knew the Mini like the back of my hand before I even touched one.
Wow.
Through the Haynes manual, and I never got one. And that car there is the car that 14-year-old Jimmy dreamt of.
So you thought you were going to get a Mini as your first car, but you didn't.
they were always too rusty, and I lived in South London. We had a 2-car drive. My parents both had a Metro, a black one and a blue one, sweet ride, and there was no room for a car. So, and the level of car I could afford was a rust bucket. So the only place it was ever going to go was on the street, and there was no way I could work on it on the street. So it never happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, well, you've made.
I've done it now.
Yeah, I was going to say you've really gone for it with it. Just out of the shot of the camera, his Mini. Jimmy's brought his Mini along. That's almost like a tongue twister. Jimmy's brought his Mini, his Clubman along, which is just a phenomenal piece of work, I have to say. It's so detailed. It's fantastic. One thing I was going to say to you. So before seeing you on the TV, and that was Discovery Channel, that show.
Yeah, that was Discovery. Yeah.
And then subsequently, Goblin Works Garage.
Goblin Works Garage. Yeah.
You were in the military, I know that much.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about previous military. So can we just rewind and sort of go through your interest in sort of cars or motorbikes and vehicles when you were growing up, and then military? Because I know just over there is your Land Rover Defender,
yeah.
And I know Land Rovers play a massive part in your life.
Massive part.
So just can you go through that with me? And if you want to talk more about Land Rovers, I'll give the microphone to him.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a weird one. Because not only that, I was an explosives and special effects technician engineer. I was always fascinated by the military because of the Falklands War. I went to school with a guy whose dad was in it, just blew my mind. And what essentially happened was, when I was at the sixth form, I had a deputy head teacher who made a quip one day. I didn't like this guy, that you could do something as silly as go off after he left school, go travel to the Falkland Islands. And I hated him that much, I went.
Did you?
Yeah. And 98% of all vehicles on the Falkland Islands at that time were Land Rovers. So I lived in a little settlement called North Arm, which was one of the most remote settlements out there. We got a plane in every week and a boat in every month. So I bought an old Series 2A long wheelbase ex-ambulance Land Rover, which was absolutely knackered, and it was my one bit of freedom. And so I tinkered with it and got it to work a bit. And it had ball tyres, and that's when I found out the beauty of roading is if you don't have grip, you don't dig holes, you just slide over the top of everything. Stunning. Never got stuck. And the military repeatedly tried to come and visit us where we were, and never got there. But I used to go everywhere in this Land Rover.
Really?
Yeah, really, generally, yeah.
They should have put ball tyres on the Land Rover.
They should need a ball tyres, yeah, because on bogs.
What does someone do in the Falkland Islands?
Sheep. Lots of sheep.
Really?
Yeah. That's not in it. I lived on a farm which had 400 square kilometres, had 70,000 sheep. 70,000 sheep, yeah. We sheared them all. Anyway, so I got quite interested in the military, and thereafter I've been worked with the reserves. I've served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and everywhere I've gone and everything I've done with the military has all been in Land Rovers. So I mean, in Iraq itself, I drove to equipment. I did a reconnaissance in the desert, and I drove to the equivalent of twice around the world in Iraq. Yeah. In old V8 Land Rovers.
Wow.
Yeah, old V8s. Yeah, they were terrible. Yeah. So they were that bad. I'm not joking. We used to take a lorry with us, a Hiab, which had a spare one on the back. And we got to the point where we could swap one over in 20 minutes. That's how regularly.
What, an engine?
No, the whole car. The whole car. Yeah.
I think a lot of Land Rover drivers do that, don't they?
Yeah, you need a spare. That's why I've got 3 now. So I still live that.
Yeah.
It's like crop. It's like crop rotation.
It was.
Because a friend of mine who's in the army said when they went from the 300 TDI to the 5-cylinder TD5.
Yeah.
So much more power.
Yeah.
But all the squaddies were used to they outsourced planes doing
Yeah.
stuff. They didn't get
It was
anything.
disastrous.
Well, yeah, they used to do it foot to the floor all the time.
Yeah.
And then they do the same technique in the TD5s.
Yeah.
And they were just constantly pulling them out of the underground.
And also along with that came all the sort of electrical faults that you had with the TD5 engine. So for us, the 300 actually was for me personally, the 300 TDI was kind of Land Rover topping out Defender. I've got the 2.4 Puma now, but for me 300 TDI, that was it. That was the peak. So my joy with working with Land Rovers in the military was always when we'd go near Americans, because the Americans were told in all their briefings before deploying into theatre that the British had this vehicle called a snatch, because it's called a snatch, which obviously in some tongues is a little bit rude. And so they couldn't believe this, and so they were all very keen to see a British snatch. And so one day we turned up at an American base with a Snatch. This is true, Johnny. They called a Snatch Land Rover. Okay, so we turned up at the American base, and you just laugh it out. And,
it's been a long few days.
This Yank turned up, and he was very excited to see my Snatch, and came and leant on its wing. Its wing then proceeded to fall off, and he just asked me if he was armoured, and the wing fell off, and he was in utter shock. And we just casually went, yeah, it's all right, don't worry about that. It's fine.
Well, he thought it was bulletproof.
Well, because they had a Kevlar tub hidden under it, but the wings and still were the standard.
I see.
So they weren't bulletproof. They were built for Northern Ireland, and they just sort of had a Kevlar tub that was for shrapnel, I suppose.
I remember when we had a conversation once before filming or something, and it was where you talked about the fact that you liked Land Rovers because, for all their faults, they saved your life.
Yeah. I mean, they've just got... A Land Rover has never not got me out of a nasty situation, whether that's been messing around in Kent in one, or you know, with all teenage years, we've been in nasty situations where you need to get out of there, Johnny.
Some terrible house parties. I had to make a quick exit from.
And then, yeah, I've been hit by an IED in Iraq, and I've had one break down in the middle of nowhere and got left behind in the desert. And somehow we always managed to draw. I mean, I lost a wheel on one day, and we somehow managed to cobble it together enough on 3 wheels to drive out of there.
Because you were being shot at. Was that the one?
Well, we were given 20 minutes. They said if you're stuck in one place for 20 minutes, it's probably not a good idea. And within 20 minutes, we were able to cobble it together enough to get out of there. So we didn't get shot at because we were able
you
to cobble quickly with some old rope or something. I don't know.
CQ cobble.
Yeah, let's go.
So where does this special effects thing and being in the military thing suddenly turn into getting a job on the television?
So after that, I've worked behind the scenes on a lot of TV shows from Top Gear, Grand Tour. My earliest debut on television, for any geeks out there, would have been Scrap Heap Challenge. I was one of the experts on Scrap Heap Challenge. I got known for building weird stuff, and someone gave me a call one day, and having grown up absolutely adoring Scrap Heap Challenge, it did 10 seasons, and on the 9th season I got a phone call saying, would you be an expert on it? And it was one of those moments you go, yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
And then I saw this amazing world of people doing incredible engineering behind the scenes on TV. So there's a big team of people on something like Scrap Heap Challenge that make sure the engineering is strong, fit, and everything works. Otherwise you don't have a TV show. And I got into that world, so I've built vehicles now for the Grand Tour, for Top Gear, and a whole host of shows around the world.
What was the weirdest / ropiest thing you actually had to construct?
Okay, on Scrap Heap Challenge I was the only person to get a centrifuge to work, which is a big spinning flaming arm that kind of wanged basketballs, I seem to remember, off at a target or something. So I did that. And then the weirdest thing, probably the sketchiest thing I've ever built was my flying machine, which I ended up, I built a flying machine out of a KTM 125 motorbike in Austria, and I tried to fly it over a mountain, and I got to 9,900 feet and the engine cut out.
No!
I'm flying!
It took me about an hour to get to 9,900 feet, and there was a lot of worry that the GoPros would have run out of battery power, but they hadn't, they were still rolling. Also, there was a cameraman who was following me in another flying machine, and he was told in the briefing, your one job, do not go and get any pretties, follow Jimmy, never take your eye off him. After an hour, he went, this is boring, he's just flying and these mountains, this glacier is stunning, I'm going. And he went. And then I go, engine out, look around, no one's there. And I'm like, well, I'm going in one direction, and no one's following.
Engine out, engine out, engine out, engine out.
And it was good, because I crashed, I snapped my leg. And
That's not good.
Well, that wasn't good. I was still alive, which I was quite amazed by. And I was lying in this ditch, and the cameraman ran over, yeah, Jimmy, are you alright? And I said, yeah, I'm alright. He goes, what should I do? And I went, film the out of it, because this is going to be great television. And he went, I just need a minute, I'm going to be sick.
Really?
Yeah, because he had to come down so fast to catch me up that he'd spiraled down to catch me up. Yeah, so he threw up, and I was lying in a ditch with a broken leg.
What was your growing up like and your school life like? Were you were the kid that always wanted to get like a motocross bike, or were you wheeling your BMX, or were you?
I was mountain bikes. Yeah, mountain bikes. I actually went on to do student games on a mountain bike. I was sponsored by Specialized and Evans Cycles back in the day. So I was big time on my mountain bike. Before buying my first car, my mum was livid because I'd saved up some money and she thought I was going to buy my first car. And I bought a GT LTS, the original LTS, which came in Alley or the first carbon fibre full-size bike. And she went bonkers. I was big time on my mountain biking back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you still into riding?
I still have my GT LTS.
Do you?
I still go out riding with it.
Wow. I've still got my mountain
Who's
bike.
laughing now? That's been a great value buy.
Yeah.
1997, that bike cost £2,000.
Whoa.
Gosh.
I think it did, yeah.
Gosh, yeah, that is really
That's serious,
expensive.
isn't it? I must have been mental.
That was proper then,
Yeah.
yeah. Gosh. So aside from cycling, and I know do you still do the open water swimming?
Yeah, absolutely. I more swimming, yeah.
And is it paragliding you do?
Yeah, paramotoring. So I actually
Paramotor.
fly a paramotor near from here, and anyone around here probably hates us because we fly over here and they make a hell of a racket. We go down and fly along the coast, just down Ville.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really nice place to go.
Is that the way you? It's basically an engine on a rucksack.
Yeah, engine on a rucksack.
Have you know the one?
You forget to take it off when you go to Starbucks.
I always.
Blender.
I saw someone doing it on the coast when I was reviewing the GR Yaris on the Late Break show, and we were trying to find a quiet place to do an intro to the video with the car, and it was the last day of lockdown, so everyone was running around trying to get, I don't know, like we were going to be denied air or something.
Everyone went mad again.
And everyone was cycling, everyone was walking dogs, and I did this piece to camera, and just as we were doing the chat, out of nowhere, 10 paragliders just came over a hill, and it was just like a huge wall of wasps.
Yeah,
Sort of
annoying hornets nest.
Two-stroke.
Yeah.
Are they two-stroke? I don't even know.
I've got a four-stroke, but it's a very rare four-stroke, but they are generally two-stroke. Yeah.
And it just the idea of the engine being on a rucksack.
Yeah.
Just I find that so the engine mounts. It's your back.
It's your back.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's incredible. Flying one of those is incredible because you have this. I know it's quite a common human thing to fantasize about flying, and what's amazing about it is it's an ultralight vehicle, which means it's foot launched. And the first time you do it, essentially you have this kite above your head, and you start running, and as the wing starts to lift, you literally feel your body come off the ground, and then you just sort of drift away. And it is the most. Forget your planes, because it's just you sat there. The issue I have with it is I suffer massively, you might know from 50 years, from motion sickness. And I do tend to, if you are around this area, if you're watching, just be careful, because I do tend to throw up quite regularly while flying it. But it doesn't stop me doing it, Johnny. The last time I flew up here, I threw up, and I carry a sick bag in this pocket. Right, so I threw up in the sick bag, and then thought, I'm not getting a litter. And so I then did the rest of the flight home with the sick bag in my mouth. I then got tired of it in my mouth. My jaw got a bit sore, so I put it in my pocket, and I had to put it in my pocket with my mobile phone. Turns out, bile does tend to kill an iPhone. Things you didn't think you were going to hear tonight. See, it was worth staying now, wasn't it?
You mentioned earlier about one of the influences in your life.
Yeah.
Being a radio control models. Yeah, because you've got it down here.
Thank God.
And it's such a beautifully detailed replica, 1/10 or 1/12 scale of the Mini. It's probably 1/10, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 1/10. Should we see if it works?
Oh, go on.
Right.
You know,
Oh.
and it's front wheel drive?
Yeah.
Oh, it's authentic.
Oh, it is. Johnny, it's legit. Now
Yeah.
listen, this model, I wanted to keep it as close to the real thing as possible. You like your Tamiya.
I do.
So pick it up, Johnny. Have a look at those wheels. So Tamiya did hop-up parts, and they did back in the day. They did proper alloy wheels, and they were red and silver. They now cost to get an original set. And I was building this car, and I found the wheel that is the right wheel. To buy those wheels, Johnny, £250 just for the rims.
What?
Yeah, honestly. And then I sprayed them to match my car. Sacrilege. Had to be done though.
I've spoken to a lot of people. In fact, a previous idle chat with Chris Harris, and a few other people who are in the car world, and maybe some of the audience who are watching this.
Should we put it down? Should we put it down the grass and see who goes?
Early influences on your interest in vehicles and your understanding of engineering does come from these.
Yeah, it really does.
Because you build it, you almost always crash it, and then you have to work out how to repair it.
But it's stuck.
It's not off-road, is it?
No, it's not off-road. Yeah, no, honestly, it took me about 2 years to get, I remember seeing the Monster Beetle on the lunchbox and it just blowing my mind in the playground. Someone had one in school.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. I was in school, I can remember it, vivid as a day, someone had a Monster Beetle and a lunchbox and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And it took probably from that point 2 years of convincing and begging my parents to go to BT's. And when they and I looked and I wanted it was the Hornet.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm never going to be able to afford it. It's going to have to be the Grasshopper, rubbish motor.
Yeah.
Had that little motor.
Still into engines already, you see.
Yeah. And it didn't happen. It never happened. It was never under the Christmas tree. And then a year later, when I'd sort of thought it's never going to happen, there it was, the box, the BT's bag. And I got a madcap, which I didn't actually know existed at that point. But just that first time, opening that instruction manual.
Yeah.
Oh, and the smells, the grease, the little package.
Did you ever go through this obsession?
No, my parents were too tight to get me a Tamiya. They got me some off-brand radio controlled car. It was a Trans Am, so points for that.
Okay, yeah.
And it was quite quick, but it wasn't a Grasshopper or something like that. It didn't have suspension you could see working. So no, I feel denied. And I have a big thing about not spoiling our children, but there's a part of me just wants to go and buy a load of Tamiya stuff for our kids just so I can play with it.
Oh, yeah. Listen, so this has been my big thing in the last 2 years. And actually, I mean, it was part of, I realised, going back to linking this all together, I'd kind of got a bit of PTSD from Iraq. Not in a horrific way, but from the fact that essentially if someone bombs you twice a day, what then happens to you if someone slams a door near you? It's a little bit disturbing, yeah, because you're used to it and you find you're looking for body armour that you don't have. And something I did to really sort of get myself past that is start building these again, because it took me back to those childhood days and it was amazing therapy.
Really?
Yeah, so the Tamiya for me has become a real positive way of almost taking me back to that childhood-like state.
Yeah.
To kind of move forwards.
I heard the same with Lego.
Yeah, Lego, exactly, yeah.
People don't look at PTSD stuff.
I mean, I know there's some weird things that I find therapeutic. One of them is actually cleaning cars.
Yeah.
Because I like doing it slowly. If I've got the time, I don't want to be rushed. It's one of those things. I'll do it, and I do it methodically. I don't want to be disturbed, and I just kind of zone out.
Exactly, it takes you to that zone.
You can just zone out.
Exactly that zone, and in that zone I call it a Tamiya day. Right, it's going to be raining.
Yes.
The Formula One's going to be on.
Yes.
Right. The poof comes out.
Or the
I'm on the chair.
Yeah.
The poof comes out. The poof has a board. I've made a board on the poof.
Yeah.
It's on there. The box is there, and I might do 2 hours. I might do 1 hour, but then the board goes under the sofa, and I'll just bring it out another day, and that is it. I zone out. And the world is a good, happy place.
So now let's talk about Goblin Works Garage. How did that come about, and what have been the highs and lows of that?
So it came about from actually, I built my jet boat and I'd done Engine Addict, which that show was called, and I got invited to go to the Classic Car Show at the NEC, and I think I'm probably the only person in history who's taken a boat to a Classic Car Show at the NEC. I took my jet boat along, and I walked in there and I just saw this amazing arena filled with like-minded people, and I said, this is where I need to be. I didn't have as such an output for what I was doing, which was, I'm an engineer, I'm not a mechanic, and I've always wanted to push my engineering boundaries. And I said, this is where I need to be. I'm surrounded by like-minded people, and I want to be here with these people. I had such a lovely time just engaging with people, letting people sit in a jet boat. And I said to myself, right, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. Owning Land Rovers, you're going to have done a bit of mechanicking.
So the cars that you build, because like this car, this Mini, was built on the show.
Yeah.
And the thing that I noticed from the Goblin Works series is the cars are built to quite an un-TV standard, and I say that because having worked in TV, I know that when cars are built in TV, they're not normally as high a standard as they would be in reality, because we all know, and there's a lot of people watching this who have classic cars, know that it's actually really difficult to restore a classic car or modify and do it to a very high standard. It's a time vampire.
Yeah,
enormous time vampire.
What I like to say is, reading between the lines, there are cars that I would call a TV car, and we do them on Goblin Works Garage, and then there's legitimate cars. That is a real car. And what I tend to do is I tend to pick cars that are true passion projects for me, and then other ones are more TV. And so something like this car, how you break out of them being what I call a telly car, which is, if you look at it, they're good at 10 metres, but actually you get a bit closer, the details aren't there, is you have to essentially build them for yourself. So this car gave me full filming days and then 4 or 5 hours a night in a hotel room, ordering parts, speaking to suppliers, whereas it should be no surprise that to build cars on telly, you need a massive team of people behind you to help support you. But there's certain cars that what I will do is stand up and do it myself. And so I have a full spreadsheet with every component on this car. I spoke to every supplier, I sourced every part, and so this car is a car I've true built. So there's more thoroughbred cars on the show, and there's some that are more telly-spec that may disappear afterwards. They're still lovely cars, and they serve a great purpose, and they create conversation, but there's definitely two types. What I will say is massively hard, and you don't see, is combining engineering and all the difficulties come with that with making a TV show. You've just made a hard process almost impossible, because they need to film something on a certain day. You might have to cut corners that you don't want to cut, and when it's your passion, that becomes a real kind of fight. So, like you said, we were talking about the cars and the level of the cars. I want to deliver a good car because I want to be able to bring that to the show. People to say, actually, you know what, Jimmy DeVille can build a car, because people on a lot of people out there, especially with social media, like to see you fail and like to pick you apart. And I think that's a shame. Something that's a shame that's happened in social media, because essentially we are just all lovers of cars. And you know what? I might do something on telly, but that I'm not proud of. Then someone might spot it, but they don't know the backstory. And there's often we just did mod shop in lockdown. You literally could not get parts. So people are saying, why do you put that part on the car? Well, we did it in lockdown where all parts of the cars sold out and no one could get any more. So we literally found any parts we could. So sometimes they were, hand on heart, terrible. But we just tried to do the best we could to represent our culture, the car world, to the best of our ability. And everyone on that show worked as hard as they could. And that's the bit that isn't seen, so that can be tough.
Yes, I've learned to fear any social media or car forum comment that starts, I can't believe they didn't.
Yeah.
Because you do want to sit these people down and say, I know you can't believe it, but let me explain to you why.
The backstory.
Because it's not this magic kingdom where anything can happen. And the problem is, of course, that because TV does make incredible things happen. Sometimes. And
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people then want to believe that anything is possible.
Yeah.
So when something isn't quite the way that they might perceive it to be, or it should be, they'll go, I can't believe they did it. You have to go, we were working 16-hour days to make this thing happen in the first place, and we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
We couldn't, or they wouldn't let us do this, or whatever.
The budget didn't allow it.
We used to get on top of it, and just go, I can't believe they didn't have the Lamborghini in that test. And you go, because Lamborghini was that someone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you said that you wanted a Mini as your first car, but you never actually got one, hence this.
Yeah.
What was your first car? It was the Land Rover.
It was,
with the torch for headlights.
Yeah. So you've got your Beetle right there. I've got my Land Rover as well, which is so technically my first car was the 2A long wheelbase Land Rover. It was called Bernard in the Falkland Islands. Which weirdly, I was watching a program about the Falkland Islands years later, and Bernard drove past, which was kind of weird. Anyway, that was technically my first car, but I came straight home from there, and I was wanting my next car, which was going to be a Land Rover, because I now knew everything there was to know about Land Rovers. I didn't, but I was 19. I thought I did. And weirdly, my neighbour had a Series 3, light blue, and its number plate was JDV721N, which JDV is my initials.
Of course.
And the head cracked. A rare occasion, a Land Rover braking.
Very extremely rare.
Hardly heard of, but it did. Freak. And the water went. Anyway, my neighbour at the same time, his wife had just got pregnant, couldn't be dealing with it.
What he could be dealing with his wife being pregnant.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not having this. I'm out.
It's out. So his wife came to live with me, and it was lovely. No. So he's getting rid of it, and the garage had offered him 400 quid for this Land Rover, and I said, I'll have it off you. I'll give you 400 quid. It was up the road. Brilliant. He said, yeah, no worries. And I brought it home, opened the boot, and there was the whole engine in pieces in the back. And I suddenly realised I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Right.
So the first thing I did on that Land Rover was build its engine, which was a real voyage of mechanical sort of learning for me, because I literally taught myself on that Land Rover how to build an engine. And that first time, I don't know, whoever's built an engine here, the first time you start an engine and it runs, I mean, you are Frankenstein, you have just brought the monster alive. It is just the most joyous. I will never forget it. Yeah, wonderful. And that was it. I was off. That was my kind of voyage into this mad world.
I'm gonna finish this idle chat, Jimmy, by asking you if I could give you any engine at all as a present, what would it be? And then secondly, I know during lockdown, and I love this story, you stumbled across a tractor in a hedge at a local farm that you kind of didn't know that was in there.
Yep.
And you dragged it out and you actually rebuilt it. And it's really cool because I guess it was left for dead decades ago. So what sort of non-car vehicle could I give you? So I don't know, commercial vehicle, tractor, mower. On what's your ultimate engine?
Okay. For me, the ultimate engine is simple, and we're sat right in the right place because it is the Merlin. We hear it here. If you're lucky enough to live around here, we get the Spitfires going over. And I got home on Friday. It flew over almost immediately. I live in Hawkinge, and that Spitfire going over, every single time it happens, the hairs stand up on the back of my neck. It is just gobsmacking. I think it's one of the pinnacles of sort of engineering. The engine and the vehicle around it, but that engine, the Merlin, supercharged, just heaven. So that's for me. If vehicle, well, I mean, we're sat here now, and there's a Porsche tractor over there, Johnny. Let's put your money where your mouth is. It's right there, son. I've got my trailer here.
It's my friend Lewis's brought it, actually. Yeah.
Turns out Johnny's going to buy it for me, Lewis. So we'll get a deal on. I'm having a bit of a tractor curve at the moment. In fact, there's Lewis loading it now. I've just did the Ferguson over lockdown, and it had been sat for 31 years. And that tractor, it shouldn't have ever run again. We literally had to machine piston linings for it. It was gone. The big end housings had gone. It was gone. It was gone. Honestly gone. And myself and my friend Gav just thought, well, it's lockdown. We want to do a bit of YouTube. We just thought we're going to do this. And it was really, for me, it was a brothership of me and him doing it when it shouldn't have been done. It was just such a joy. And driving, honestly, it's probably one of the best drives of my life. Really? If you want to smile, go up the road at 5 miles an hour on an old tractor. I tell you, you can keep your curlings there because that thing is just brilliant. Absolutely, I just was beaming. It was just such joy in that old tractor. So yeah, I've got my tractor curve on right now. So I've been after a Porsche tractor. I just think the Ferguson has a real beautiful look, and it's a real classic. And I think those Porsches, I've had my arm on for about 5 years. I just think they're a stunning bit of design as well. So yeah.
Well, and you actually own another Porsche. You own a Porsche car, so it might be a nice duo. But yeah. Thanks ever so much for watching this Idle Chat episode. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, please subscribe and leave a comment below. And Jimmy, I look forward to your new show involving a motorhome that very, very much isn't a normal motorhome. All right, thank you.
Cheers.